Today, I'm going to talk about my personal ranking for the 7 Princes of Hell, including those we haven't even seen yet, but maybe I'll update my ranking when they actually appear on screen. Until then, if you're already subscribed at Cartoon Universe, make sure you subscribe here at Random Universe too, where we'll be posting all sorts of different content separate from Cartoon Universe, from little opinion pieces like this to animations like the Digital Circus one we had last week. Number 1 out of 7, the prince I like the least is Mammon. I absolutely hate this guy so much it's unreal. But with that in mind, I want to make it clear that none of these reviews will be a critique of the characters, but rather why I like or hate them on a personal level within the show. Mammon is essentially the villain of Hell of a Boss, with every other prince so far being much more of a cinnamon roll than Mammon, whose greed makes him the most vile of the deadly sins. I hate him and his design and his mannerisms, and there's nothing about him I like even in an ironic way, and that's what really makes him the perfect villain for the series. I don't really want him to be likable the way Asmodeus appears to be, or Lucifer seems like he will be in Hazbin Hotel. Whatever Mammon gets, he will absolutely deserve, and I can't wait to see what his ultimate downfall is in the show. And considering how much he self-sabotages with his own ring, I won't be surprised when his downfall is entirely his own doing. Now, with what we know about all 7 princes so far, my second least favorite, number 2 on this list, would be Satan, but it's not for any reason in particular. Once we actually see him, I could really love his personality, his interactions with characters, his design, but all I really have to go off of right now is where he may fit in with the hierarchy due to his real-life lore. Satan appears to be a second in command in Hell, the general of Hell's army, and the prince of the Wrath Ring, of course, with most of this information being inferred based on where the imps seem to fit in Hell society with their love of war, and not understanding how to get paid without overlords outside of farming. Satan's place in the Helliverse hierarchy is definitely interesting, don't get me wrong, and I'm probably more interested in learning about him than Leviathan because of how Satan is likely a lot more relevant to what's going on in Hell as a whole. But with that being said, I still find Leviathan more interesting, which leads to the next person on this list, which is of course number 3, Leviathan. Now, while Leviathan's lore may not be as relevant to the rest of the Helliverse with the shows and how they are playing out right now, Leviathan is still cooler to me as a character because of his origins. Leviathan is expected to be related to more Lovecraftian ideas of chaos and primordial existence, hinting at roots that are perhaps more ancient than the other princes while not necessarily being as powerful. Vipsy Pop said early on that Hazbin Hotel's story is designed for about 3 seasons, but if the show could continue from there, that she'd like to explore the story of the Von Eldridge family, who were shown in the Hazbin Hotel pilot to be close with Charlie's Morningstar family. Leviathan within the Bible was a sea monster who is often seen as a parallel to other mythologies which had myths of a serpent-like primordial sort of chaos monster, such as Typhon in the Greek tradition. With that in mind, as well as one member of the Von Eldridge family being named Sephiathan, it seems like an easy connection that Leviathan will be part of the Lovecraftian lore in the series, though I wouldn't be surprised if he was a bit different from what we expect, as all the princes are so far, with how they are given more human-like character within the show. Dead in the center of the 7 princes for me is Asmodeus. My opinions change a lot, and I love Asmodeus more with each episode, liking him a lot more in Season 2 than I did with what little we knew about him from his premiere episode in Season 1. He ultimately seems to be the nicest of all the princes, and the most well-meaning, hardly even sinful in the real sense, just a little horny. The reason I put him more in the middle ahead of princes who I am very excited about the lore for is that he is just a good character, and he's interesting to me in a character way. But lore-wise, I don't have nearly as much fun with him as I do with the other princes, I think. That being said, of all the princes in the show, he's the one I enjoy recurring the most just as a character, and I'm hoping the second half of Season 2 continues to make use of him and Fizz. Now, getting closer to my favorites on this list, number 5 is Belphegor. Now, like Leviathan and Satan, we don't have any sort of art for Belphegor or anything more than just a mention in the show, but between that mention, the real-life lore, and the absolute state of the Sloth Ring, Belphegor is not just in my top 3 for favorite princes, but I think that I actually like her more in terms of lore than I do Beelzebub, who I'm about to reveal is my second favorite of the princes overall. Belphegor, as the Prince of Sloth, just has an interesting premise, being someone who wishes to rest, with too much rest leading to people just feeling lethargic and tired in an uncomfortable way, lazy yet restless. To counteract this, Belphegor has started taking sleeping pills, it would seem, which she then mass markets as prescription drugs to the people of Hell, particularly her candle-headed natives in Sloth. Finally, number 6, my second favorite, just above Belphegor, is Beelzebub, who, like Asmodeus, I don't have too much fun with lore-wise, but who I genuinely love the character of. This is the design that Vizipop has got the absolute most hate for, but it was designed literally to be Kesha's persona as royalty in hell, while calling all the way back to the roots of Vizipop's channel with her amazing Die Young music video featuring her Zoophobia furries. This character managed to be an amazing mishmash of everything except that she wasn't fat as the Prince of Gluttony. And for some reason, people really want the Prince of Gluttony to be fat now, even though we know they would be criticizing Vizipop as being fat-shaming if she did that. Beelzebub, with all this in mind, is honestly the better reminder that gluttony isn't about fat, it is about gluttony. It's about overconsumption, and we all know there are skinny people who overconsume food in gluttonous ways. And of course, Beelzebub's gluttony goes well beyond the food. Beelzebub's real focus is on Beelze juice, which we believe to be a mead-type demonic alcohol that the Hellhounds help to make. This is done based off of the emotions of the partygoers, it seems, with Beelzebub being very in tune to what every person is feeling inside and sensing how that affects everything else around her. While her entire system is massively evil and corrupt, ruining the lives of endless hellhounds with her parties and pounds, she still actually does her best to help people at her parties, not simply throwing them out when they don't fit the mood, but helping them work through their issues. She is willing to take a lot of shit from Luna in an attempt to help Blitz, and really just bows down to him in her own game when she realizes how much pain he is in. The beauty of Beelzebub is that she is so messed up that she needs this entire corrupt system in order to hold herself down and stop her from being a giant monster that is endlessly destroying her own reign. She is a dark demonic god who wants to do well but has enslaved an entire people in order to remain calm so that she doesn't destroy them in a monstrous rage. She is an absolutely amazing character explored in such a short amount of time, and while I know it may be hard to get Kesha to recur as a voice actress, anything more we can get about this character will be what I look forward to most in Hell of a Boss, but of course that still leaves my number one favorite to be a character specific to Hazbin Hotel. Finally, number 7th, and my favorite prince is of course Lucifer, the king of all of hell. It's hard not to like the guy with what little we know about him, as he's kind of the center point of the entire Helliverse. Originally, the Hazbin Hotel characters were all sinners, including Charlie, back when Hazbin Hotel was just a subplot in the Zoophobia comics. Back then, there was only one ruler of hell who was called both Satan and Lucifer. The change to make Hazbin Hotel its own series came with a lot of changes to the lore of hell from Zoophobia, built largely around deeper research about not just hell, but Lucifer in particular, with Vizipop saying that the show will be largely about Charlie's relationship with her father. Lucifer is the king of hell and the leader of fallen angels in traditional Christian lore. While the other princes are traditionally fallen angels along with Lucifer, we don't know if that will be the case in the show, and instead Lucifer gets to serve as the tentpole for the fallen angel narratives that we know from the Bible and extra-biblical mythology as a whole, and I cannot wait to see how Vizipop untangles all of that. For my own thoughts on all of the lore, hit that subscribe button because I have plans for a much bigger deep dive video in the next week or so into the entirety of the real-life lore that inspired the Helliverse, as well as more animations such as we talked about earlier. See you guys then.